Well, hello there. Welcome once more to Controls Kitchen. And if this is your first time stopping by, I would like to say a very warm welcome to you. Dear friends, join me as I prepare a family meal for us and our family first. We are friends, but we consider each other as family because we are in a church with just three Ghanaian families, pretty much the only Africans in our congregation, and we stick together to help each other out. Our kids see the other kids as their cousins. They see the other families as their uncles and aunties. And especially when you are far away from home with nobody close, you need that kind of bond. So we are very thankful for our friends, and we do this a lot. Well, way before the pandemic, we used to have family meals in each other's homes. We just took turns to host, and we just cook something and eat together. We clean up together when we are done, and the kids have a good time playing whilst we sit and talk or play games. So I hope this is going to be something interesting for you. So actually, I am home alone now. My husband actually is at work. The kids have been picked up by one of my friends. She came to deliver the goods meat for us to make this. So I am all alone at home, quiet, just enjoying the quiet, no music playing, no TV, and just doing this. That is what I'll do on a normal day. Even if I wasn't filming, I am like my husband says I'm like a ghost. I can be home with nothing playing and just, probably be on my phone, but just I like to have some peace and quiet. So I am going to make some marinade for the chicken, and right here in the food processor is some cilantro that I washed. I washed 2 bunches of cilantro. I have peeled some onions to start making the marinades for the chicken and the meat. And now I'm just going to go ahead and rinse the onions, cut them up, and we'll proceed. For the cilantro lime chicken, all I need is my cilantro, which is already in the food processor. I'm using one large onion, about two thumb sizes of ginger, so I'm just cutting into that. Throw it into the food processor. I'm just cutting it in that way so the strings are shortened and so you don't have long strings of ginger sticking out on your meat or anything like that. And I'm adding 4 limes. So I've cut up the limes and I'm just going to go ahead and squeeze it into the food processor and use the lime juice is what is going to help me get everything blended. So no water, just the lime juice. So I forgot to add some garlic, so I have peeled 3 cloves of garlic. I'm adding one habanero pepper to it to bring some heat, and now I'm just blending more so you get a little bit of a smoother or more a little finer of a texture. I'm using the food processor for a reason. I just don't want everything to be too smooth. I want that chunkiness on the chicken so when it grows it looks beautiful, but you can blend it if you don't have a food processor. The taste is still going to be the same anyway. So my cilantro lime seasoning is done, and I'm getting ready to blend some onions and garlic and other spices for the goat meat. I'm going to be using goat meat for the TZ. So I don't even know if I told you what's on the menu. I'm making tozafi and jollof. So the TZ, everything from scratch, the stew, the okra, and the TZ itself, and some jollof with some cilantro lime chicken for the kids. So I've added in here half a teaspoon of aniseed, 1 calabash nutmeg, and I'm going to blend this with the onions, ginger, garlic, and this is going to be the marinade for the goat meat. Like I said, this is going to be delicious. Delish. Yes, my signature word. I know. 1 calabash nutmeg is more than enough. You don't want to overdo it because it's just going to overpower everything and you won't like that. So that is done, and I'm going to be blending these two onions and peppers, and that is going to be what I'll be using to make the tomato stew for the jollof and the TZ stew. So I'll just split it once it's blended. I cooked some cow foot and cow skin in my instant pot earlier on. So that is done. That is a quick way to make sure you get your tender meat cooked in no time. So that is done. I've just poured it into this bowl to make room for me to cook the goat's meat in the instant pot as well. So I'm just going to wash it and then I'll put them in the pot and cook it. So this goat meat, if you can see, has all the parts. It has skin, it has ribs, it has some of the intestines and everything. So this TZ stew has everything to make it legit, okay? Like the best TZ stew experience you could ever have. I have a recipe here already. It is amazing. You need to try it. So I washed my meat twice, and it's now in here in the instant pot. And I've added some salt to it. Now I am going to pour the blended ingredients. I'm just going to leave a little bit because it has some aniseed and the calabash nutmeg that I think is going to be also good for the base of the stew. So I've poured enough in here, added some water. You don't need too much water when you're using a pressure cooker. So that is even way more than enough. And I'm just going to set it. For that amount of meat, I gave it 27 minutes. So it's going to cook beautifully. You'll see it when it comes out. I'll be using these chicken leg quarters to make the cilantro lime chicken. Since it's going to be for the kids, I am going to end up cutting them up. So I have soaked them in water and I'm adding some vinegar to that. And whilst that soak, I am going to blend the onions and peppers that is going to be for the stew. And like I said, I left some of the marinade for the goat meat in the blender, and that is going to help bring more flavor because of the aniseed and the calabash nutmeg. So this is a trick I learned. Normally when I'm cutting meat on this plastic board, it's so light it moves all around. So I wet a napkin and I put it on the countertop before I place the board on. That way it's not moving. You'll see in a previous video I made, I haven't shared yet, but my chopping board was moving all over. So no, I learned my lesson. I actually looked it up and I found out you could do that, and that helps. So that's what I've done, and my chicken is here now. It has soaked enough. You want it to just sit a little bit in that vinegar water or lime or whatever to get it to just smell good, and it helps you to clean it better. So I am removing the fat and all the feathers or whatever it's on as much as I can to make sure our meat is good. And now I'm just trying to scrape this yellow part that is always on the leg. It can come off, it's hard, but you can just scrape it like I'm using the knife to do, and it will come off. Just be careful of your fingers, don't cut yourself. So our chicken is good to come out now. I'm just going to rinse them as I bring them out of the water, and then I'll just transfer them onto the chopping board and we'll cut them up. I always like to dry my meat because you want the marinade to sit on it. If it's not dry, whatever you put on it ends up just ending up taking up the water as well. And then so your meat, instead of sitting in a thick marinade, it's more like in a soup. So I pat it dry so it's pretty much as dry as I can, and that way the marinade sticks to it. So because it's going to be mostly eaten by the kids, I am going to cut it up so it's easier for them to just pick a piece. Normally, I like to cook my chicken leg quarters whole and then just cut them up later on. But this is just good as well. We don't want anybody disturbing us when we are sitting down to eat our TZ, okay? Let them just pick one piece and go. And of course, food handling safety 101. Clean and disinfect all surfaces once you are done handling raw meat. So I normally try to make sure all my meats are done. And then after that, I disinfect my countertop where I did the chopping, the sink, the knife, the sponge. And that is what I'm doing now. Nothing new. Marinate the chicken. So you want to season the chicken as fast as you can. Give it at least 2 hours to marinate. Ideally, I would marinate overnight. I like my meats to marinate overnight, but I didn't plan ahead. So I'm going to end up giving it about 3 hours to do that, and then we will grill it. So I have washed my hand, and I'm now just trying to cover it with this cling wrap, press and seal, and this is going to go in the fridge. So I have excess marinade and I'm just trying to find a bowl. So here we go. This will go in the freezer, and next time I bring chicken out to cook, I have marinade already, so that saves me time. Sometimes I actually make it ahead and just freeze, so I save myself some time. Bringing out the pot so we can start the cooking. So TZ stew is ideally made with palm oil, and that is what I'm going to use. I love this brand of palm oil. It's not a Ghanaian brand, but I just like it for the fact that it has literally no taste, no smell. I am fussy about my palm oil. If it's not from my mom, we have a school, we have kids, they do canteen. It's a lot of palm nut soup that they normally make in our school. So small town school, So my mom and my aunties cook. So we always have palm oil from home. So if it's not anything like that, I'm very picky about my palm oil. This Caratina is neutral. So I like it for that purpose. You can deodorize it or give it any aroma that you want depending on what you put on it. But it doesn't have any aftertaste or anything. And for that matter, I like it. So anyway, I have some in my pot, and now I'm going to season this fish. This is just whitened fish. That was the very last in my freezer. To make TZ stew, you need a little bit of smoked fish flaked into the stew to make it perfect. Normally, I'll use mackerel, or what we call salmon in Ghana, but I don't have any at home. I normally grill it or bake it and put it in the freezer. There was none. This is the only fish. This and catfish is all I have in my freezer, but I decided to use this. So I've put some of the green marinade that I just made, a cilantro lime, and I'm going to cook this in my new air fryer. So this is my Go Wise air fryer oven. It's amazing, amazing. If you need or you are looking to buy something, try that. You will love it. So anyway, I put my onions in the palm oil. It has cooked to almost caramelizing, and now I am adding in half of the peppers, more like 2/3 of the peppers and other ingredients that I blended for the stew, because we can have our spicy. The kids not put too much. So that is blended garlic. I blended a batch of garlic and put them in ice cube trays to freeze. So I picked one and I've split it into two. One half is going to go in the tomato stew, the other half into the TZ stew. I pre-cooked this tomato, so I cooked down some tomatoes to be this puree consistency. Perfect. It's going to speed up my cooking time. So I'm just going to put some here in the TZ stew to start cooking. And then the rest is what I'll be using to make the jollof stew. This is going to cut my time, my cooking time, but at least a third. So it's advisable to do this, especially when tomatoes, of course, is cheap and you have the time. Just blend, let it sit on the fire, go about your chores. It will cook down, and you just transfer them into containers and freeze. Save yourself some time and money. So I have in my oven right now 3 different pans of oil. This one that I'm pouring in here is what I use to fry some kose, so that is good. I have, and that's what I'm going to use to make the stew. So I've poured some in here. I have some in there that I used to fry kele wele, and another one that I used to fry food for my kids. So I just use the one that I used to make kose because that is pretty much has the ingredients that you end up having in the stew. Nothing too overpowering, no sweetness either. I've opened a big can of tomato paste. Normally, this is what I buy from the restaurant supply store. It saves money. So I open it, then I portion it out. Normally, I meal prep, so I just put in each bag enough for what I think will make me like some stew and soup, and I just put them in the freezer. Bring one out when I'm about to cook or meal prep. I save a few in ice cube trays for when I want to put them in stew, or if I'm making just a tiny amount of stew that you need just a little bit of, tomato paste. So I'm starting to make the stew. I have my onions in there. My candles lined up. Yes, the aromas are starting to catch up here. So I'm going to place these candles all over. I have my infuser on as well with some essential oil just to try to neutralize the odors. It's a good day. It's a nice day out. So I've opened the windows and doors, the back door. It has the screen. And so I'm just trying to bring some fresh air in here and, neutralize the odors as well. So just placing these strategically, and then we'll continue our cooking. Meanwhile, the onion is beautifully caramelized, perfect for me to add my curry. So I've added about a teaspoon of curry in here now. And I'm just going to let this fry up just a little bit before I add the onions and, the spices and everything, the garlic, pepper in here. That is the other 1/3 from when I poured the rest in the palm oil to make the TZ stew. Checking on the TZ stew just to make sure I'm not burning it, so I'm just stirring it quick. Rinse out the blender for the tomato stew. And right now it looks like we are on course. So our onion has been cooking for almost about 5 minutes in here whilst I tidied up. I've added the rest of the tomato puree that I made, and I'm going to add some tomato paste to this and let this cook down to make our jollof stew. So I'm intending to make this jollof stew not like my typical very well fried or cooked stew that gets dark. This is going to be a little bit on the lighter side, just a different color, and of course different taste depending on what you put in. You want to vary things out, and this is going to be good. I know that kids will like this. I'm going to add 3 bay leaves in here. Normally I buy this is fresh, so normally when I find fresh bay leaves, I put whatever I didn't use in a Ziploc and just leave it in the freezer. It stays great, so it's still looking like fresh leaves. It's not dried or anything, and it can stay in there for quite a long time, probably forever. I don't know, but it stays until it's all used up. I've put some dawa in here now. That is locust beans. It has that pungent smell, but of course, that is that kind of stinky but good thing. It smells amazing when it's cooked. When it's not cooked, you don't like the smell, but in the food, it brings a great aroma. I almost forgot my other half of the garlic cube, the frozen garlic cube. So I put it in here now, not too late. So far as I remember, it's good. And so in here it goes. So actually, speaking of the bay leaf, I saw a plant in Lowe's. I had never seen a plant, and I am thinking of getting one. And of course, I'm going to benefit, and I can give some out as well. It was pretty expensive, like 30 something dollars. I'm trying to find a smaller plant that I will grow myself. So this is what I was talking about. The tomatoes, I portion them out like this. It goes in the freezer, and whenever I need them, I bring them out. I am almost out of Maggi cubes, but I just have one in the jar and another half that I have kept in the fridge. So that goes into my tomato stew for the TZ stew, the palm oil stew, and I've added some shrimp powder as well. It's not really powder because I just crush it. I make it home myself. I like the chunks in some things that I make. So that, covers up for the shrimp seasoning the cube. So just 1.5 tablet is more than enough so far as I have my powdered shrimp, and I've also added some shrimp powder in here to the tomato, the jollof stew. Mix it up, and now I add my cow skin and cow foot in here because this stew has cooked pretty much on low heat for way over 30 minutes at this point since I added the tomatoes. And so I poured everything in here. The liquid from the meat or the juices is going to cook down more. So then the stew is still getting cooked to perfection this way. The meat is absorbing the tomatoes to come out perfect. So this stew, it already smells amazing. I know they're going to love it. So I put some salt in my tomato stew already. I am going to add some better than bouillon in here. This is a great, great, great uh seasoning. You can use that. It works just like your beyond cubes or your stock cubes. Well, I like it. I discovered it from Nanabe's kitchen. I think it's amazing. So I have kept this. I use it every time I feel like I need it. Like today, I think it's going to be perfect in that. So I used about a teaspoon in this tomato stew, and that is all I need. And look, goat meat is cooked to perfection. 27 minutes on the Instant Pot. Look at that. Almost just about to fall apart, just like how you want it. Not too soft, but definitely not hard. So at this point, I am running late. My husband is here now. He's helping me with the filming, and we had planned to eat around 4. So it's a little after 3. I'm not really done. I'm really pretty much on course, and I was trying to get some of the goat meat here so I could fry. You know how when you go buy your TZ, you can have some fried meat and some boiled meat. So you ask for pediatric kakra, and the real street experience. But then we realized that was going to take some more of my time. I have to go get showered. We have to set the table and everything. So I just decided to just put everything in here, but I had separated the meat for that reason. So here is the stock. Yes, that's what I was telling you. When you cook in the instant pot, normally, so far as you don't burn it, you end up with almost all the juice that you started with, plus, of course, a little extra because the meat will pull out the juice. So I had plenty of juice, so I put some in the tomato stew for the jollof, and I poured the rest and all the meat that I was intending to just not fry this your madia, the offals or the tripe and everything. So that goes in there. It's already in there, and I brought out my fish. Just look at that, perfectly grilled. This is gonna be perfect. So we actually ended up eating some leftover banku in the fridge with the two other pieces. Like days later, I kept it in the fridge, perfect. And I'm just flaking one to go in the tomato stew. Just one piece is all you need. Very hot, so I grabbed my fork because I was killing my fingers, okay? So here goes the fish into the TZ stew. Give it a stir. You just wanted tiny pieces of fish. Like every scoop of the stew you get a little of that fish, the flaked fish. That makes it the true TZ experience. So I made a tomato stew with a lot of oil just so it will cook faster. That is one trick. If you don't have enough time, hard pressed for time, making your jollof stew, you could add a lot of oil. The more oil you have in the stew, the higher the chance of it frying. So because you are cooking the stew, but it fries because there's a lot of oil, so it cooks faster. And that way, when it's cooked, you can just scoop off some of the oil and save it for another day. So that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to collect as much of the oil from the top, and then we'll go ahead and start our jollof. The tomato stew is going to be way too much for the amount of jollof I'm planning to cook. So I am scooping some into a bowl, and that I can use later on for whatever I want to make more jollof or just tomato stew. And I see I got more oil on the surface of the stew, so I am trying to collect that as well. I ended up with a little over a cup of oil on the side, and that I will use another day. So I'm washing my rice now, and that is going to go into the stew, and our jollof will be on course. So we are almost there. So due to time constraint, I'm not toasting the rice, but I have a lot of stew. It's going to be cooking in a thick concentration of tomato stew anyway, beautifully flavored. So it's going to be all right. I've added some salt, and I'm just going to go ahead and add some warm water to the rice and start cooking the So the goat meat that I was planning to fry is in here now. Yes, that is one huge bowl of TZ stew. This just reminds me of the TZ joint, the big pot that you can see every part of the meat, whatever is in there. This will be like, if I brought this to the table, this will be just perfect. You can see whatever you want. So anyway, we are going to start grilling the chicken now. My husband already heated up the grill, and so I remembered I didn't put any oil on it. You want just a little bit of oil to help your meat not stick to the grill. So I poured probably about 2 tablespoons of avocado oil in here, and then we are going to go ahead and start grilling. Stew is perfectly cooked now. I tasted it for salt. It is perfect. And at this point, I'm just going to turn off the heat, and I'm going to just get this off the range so I can cook the other parts of the meal. So of course, super hot. You don't want to put it on your countertop. So it went on my trivet. So it's going to absorb the heat and not, damage my countertop. And our jollof is doing perfect. Just look at that. So this has been about 10 minutes into the cook time of the jollof, and I give it a stir. Jollof needs a lot of stirring like we know, but I also want to put some parchment paper on top of it just like that. I took way too much, so I'm just going to tuck some in here, and that is going to help trap the heat and moisture in the from the rice cooking. So it's going to help the rice retain all the moisture to help it cook faster. So this okra, I asked my husband to pick it up from the store for me on his way home. He did a great job, just so beautiful. And these are actually from my yard. It's another species of jute leaves. These don't go like very tiny on the ground. It's almost like a tree now. I have plant like they're going above my wall right now. So this morning, my friend, one of the friends that we are expecting, she came to deliver some goat meat for me because I didn't have any goat meat. So she brought me the meat, and when she came, I asked her to pick the leaves for me whilst I did other things. So we just picked them, put them in the fridge, so I didn't have to go in the heat because it's super hot outside right now. And so that is washed as well. I came to check on the chicken just so you know how it's going. And yeah, Aboche is doing a great job. And so I have my okra washed now, and I am just getting ready to blend this. This is just going to be in the teaser, the okra on the side. So that is going to help the leaves get some more draw, to get it a lot more slimy than normal, because those leaves are very much like jute leaf. They are jute leaf, like I said, a different species, but it's not slimy enough if you don't add any okra to it. So I added a big piece of dawa as well. That is the locust beans. So I put some in the stew, and then I'm putting a bigger portion in the green stew, like the okra that I'm making. So you can know this is assured to be very, very flavorful. So here I have some herrings. These are just broken pieces of herrings in my freezer, saved for things like this and to make amane jollof. And I'm just gonna go ahead and start cooking this in a pot with salt and water. So this will cook a little bit and soften up before I add the okra to it. So the okra is ready to blend, and I'm going to blend it, like I said, together with the dada or locust beans. I'm going to make it as fine as I can and pour it aside, blend the jute leaves, that way allowing the herrings to cook a little bit, absorb some more moisture and salt before I add the okra and jute leaf to make that sauce. So into the bowl this goes, so I can have room to blend the jute leaves as well. And there we go with that. So our herrings has boiled over for about 10 minutes at this point, and I'm adding the okra to it now. You just want a little bit of flavor of something in there. That's how I make it. So the okra and jute leaves are both here now. I'm just whisking it, letting it get a chance to combine. Back home they have a special broom, like they tie together broom, like brand new broom of broomsticks, of course, to whisk the okra to get it like this. I've added some salt. I'm adding some baking soda or bicarbonate of soda as well. That is going to help the draw, and also it's going to help the color. I mean the bicarbonate of soda. If you cook any vegetable that you want it to retain its greenness, become green and beautiful, like string beans, you could put just a little bit of that into boil, and it's going to be beautifully green. So the jollof at this point has cooked for about 30 minutes now on the very lowest heat, and with the parchment paper on top of it, it's doing very good. It's still not all the way cooked, but I just need some turning, so I'm just trying to stir and turn it, and then I'll cover it again and allow it to cook through. Meanwhile, our okra is doing its thing. Thank God I was watching. You see, it was almost boiling over, just like okra would do to you. I stirred and it comes up again. You have to be mindful of this, or use a way bigger pot than I did if you're cooking that much. And so I kept stirring, and then I brought down the heat to the very lowest and just let it cook on its own. So at this point, everything is almost done. I have just called the squad to start leaving home. I am sifting the kokonte, that is just cassava flour. So it's very dried cassava milled into powder. I'm just sifting it to get all the undesirable particles out, just like this. The kokonte I store in my pantry. It stays longer that way. Nothing happens to it. But for the corn flour, which I am picking up now, that is what we call a bogari, I normally put it in the freezer. So these stay in bags in my freezer. I have a few different bags of that. I brought that a lot from Ghana, and so it stays frozen. That way you don't get all those little pests that will normally come into corn or cornmeal when it stays on the shelf for too long. So I'm still sifting it though, because you never know what particles can be in there making a mess. I should have used a bigger bowl, but I'm just gonna clean up when I'm done. I already started making the mess anyway. And so yeah, and I'm covered in powder. So I set these aside, and I am going to bring the okra off the stove, put it on, of course, something so you protect your countertop, like I said. So I have the teased water on fire now, and I'm running upstairs to go take my shower and get dressed. I am back now, and so is Juliet. She's here now. She is Mama Teased, okay? So she's going to prepare this for us the authentic way, and I learned something from this, because normally when I make my teased, after I make the porridge, I still go ahead to mix some of the bulgari or the corn flour with the kokonte to put in the porridge, but she taught me that no, it's just gonna be kokonte or the cassava flour afterwards. So we mix the corn flour in some water, and then we've poured that into the boiling water now, and so that is just gonna thicken up slightly to make a porridge, and we let it cook, boil over a little bit before we ended up adding the powder. And at this point the jollof is perfectly cooked, so I moved it to the back, as you could see, so because that is a smaller flame, so it helps to prevent your rice from burning. And now it's all done, so I'm just transferring it into a serving dish, and then we'll just stick it outside with everything else. Let's pour the okra also into our serving pot, or the ayoyo. So here we go with that. Cover, and I just pass it on to the guys. So we are getting the stew also into a pot, a little bit of that, and the rest we'll just split it up later when we're done, so everybody can take some home. Of course, this always has to be leftovers. Always, you can't eat good food and go home and not have another take of it at home the next day. So I always try to make sure there's enough for us to eat and take back with us. So our porridge is boiling, as you can see now, and Madame is scooping some into another bowl. Yes, and that is the one thing that even without her, I learned from my TZ video. I got a lot of comments that said you should always scoop some on the side so you mix it. And so my leftover stew, actually, that is exactly how I made it, just like Juliet taught me. And from comments from you friends out here, yes, I am here to learn, and I am here to share. So I am very thankful for all the lessons I get here. So here goes the first scoop of kokonte or cassava flour. You simply cannot be slacking once you start putting that in here. You have to stir very fast and vigorously, just like she's doing. You have to be very smart doing that. Otherwise, you're going to end up with a lumpy tease-it, and you don't want that. So a little at a time, but you stir very, very quick to make sure that it's well incorporated. So once you are able to get the cassava flour to be well incorporated, you start adding in the porridge that you scooped on the side, a little at a time, until you get the perfect consistency you want. Texture for your teas that really pretty much depends on how you want it. And for us, we want it light, so she made it very light. And once it starts cooling, it firms up anyway. So the lighter the texture, the better for when it cools off. Concludes our cooking. It's time to get ready to go and eat. The guys are setting the table. We are almost done with this. Everybody's here. And time to sit and have a good family time. Just look at all the spread we have. Yes. I know you want to be here. We would be honored to have you here, okay? Of course, you're part of our family anyway. A real taste of street food, like just like you would have it in Ghana. Thanks for watching. I really hope you enjoyed this video. Please give me a thumbs up and share. And until I come your way next time with something delicious, be loving, be kind, be happy.